So we have 13th of June as I'm filming this video, and even though the weather today is absolutely amazing, if you look at the mountains behind me, it doesn't really look very summery now, does it? And what if I told you that just a couple of days ago everything was covered in snow and we actually got around 1 meter of fresh snow up in the mountains? And trust me, that was something completely new even to me, and I've been living here for about 7 years now. And so let's dive into the topic of summer weather in Iceland, and let's address a couple of different weather-related subcategories to get you well prepared for your trip. And just to clarify, when I'm talking about the summer, I really mean like end of May till maybe beginning of September, give or take 1 or 2 weeks. And so let's begin with the temperature, and that will be a tricky one because the range here is really quite wide and you can really expect anything from temperatures as low as 0 degrees all the way to about 20 degrees Celsius. But if you look at the average, I would say that the temperature would be anywhere in the range of 5 to 15 degrees Celsius. And so if you are used to over 30 degrees in the summer, this will probably not seem like much. But sometimes you would be actually surprised how warm it can actually feel when the sun comes out. And the good thing about the summer is that the sun basically doesn't really set in the evenings, at least not until around end of August. And when we look at the whole island, then your location will actually have a little bit of an influence on an average temperature that you can expect. For example, the higher the elevation, the colder the temperature. And it will always be warmer by the coast compared to the interior of the island. For example, in places like highlands. And that's true especially if you are staying somewhere near glacier. When it comes to the question whether there are any significant temperature differences when it comes to different regions, I mean, there are, but also it isn't something that I would always look at, when planning the trip and trying to decide where exactly to go. But still, if you are wondering, then I would say that it is always generally colder up here in the area of Westfjords and then also in the whole northern region. And that's mainly due to the cooling from the snow in the mountains and also the colder northern wind, as these areas basically get hit by it first. But in the same time, places like Eyjafjörður here in North Iceland can often be one of the warmest places in the whole island. And it is not rare to have temps around 20 degrees for even multiple days in a row. And I think it has actually always been sort of a tradition for people from Reykjavik to come up here to the northern part of the island and enjoy a bit more, warmer and sunnier weather here compared to what is in south. But it hasn't really been true in past, I think, 2 years. Like, for example, last year, 2023, the summer was just completely shit up here in the north, while they were enjoying a beautiful sunny weather down in Reykjavik. And so that's basically what I mean when I say that you don't necessarily want to make that decision based on where the temperature is the warmest on average, because it's always changing and it is different each year. And the sun actually plays such a huge role here, and you'll definitely feel it because right now, let's take this as an example. I'm sitting at the sun, there is almost no wind and I'm literally sweating. And I know that as soon as the sun goes behind the clouds or it hides behind the mountain, I'll be probably putting on some layers immediately. And you may have also heard that it rains here a lot. Even though, today is definitely not the case, but still, if you're unlucky, you can easily get full week of just rain. But, then if you look at the average, summer months are actually some of the driest, and I think it is around 10 to 12 days per month during the summer, which if you think about it, isn't actually so bad. But here's actually where the region plays much bigger role, as in the south it rains nearly twice as much compared to the northern regions. And so the rain is something you definitely want to be prepared for. What about the snow though, and how likely it is that you are actually going to experience snowfall during the summer? What happened this June isn't something that happens often, and in all those years that I've lived here, I've never experienced anything like this. Just look at this footage from 2 days ago, when I went skiing with a friend of mine. Look at how much snow we still have up there. It's absolutely amazing. with that said, you know, the chances that it's going to snow, there is always some chance, especially up in the mountains in the regions like here at Trotlaskagi, or maybe somewhere in highlands, somewhere higher up, but it still isn't something that will affect your travels. And if there is one thing that you really want to be careful about, even in the summer, it is the wind. And even though summers are the least windy months, the wind will still play a huge role here during your trip. And there are actually a couple of reasons for that. And A, that will be the obvious one, and that's that it will actually feel much colder, you know, when it's windy. And I mean, I can definitely feel it now, because like down there I was basically baking, and up here I can feel like I could already use an extra layer, you know, the wind is picking up. Then B, you will want to pay close attention to a forecast, especially if you are planning camping or traveling in an RV. And then C, well, if you combine rain and wind, then you'll be drenched in no time. Which brings me to the topic of clothes, and that's something that I have addressed on this channel so many times. But still, I feel like I have to repeat myself, because I feel like I see people getting this all wrong all the time. I'm not going to go into what exactly you should bring, because I already have 2 videos on my channel on this exact topic, but still, here's at least a quick summary of what you should know about. So like I have mentioned earlier, it can be both very cold but also very warm, and so you basically want to be ready for both kinds of weather, you know. And so you might want to bring some summer clothes like I'm wearing today on this rare day when basically everything aligned and it isn't too windy, it is very warm and it is sunny. But this is something that we don't get so often, and the way that I like to think about packing for Iceland is more about like if you are packing for a winter trip, you know, you basically want to make sure that you have some clothes with you that will keep you warm and dry. And I mean, it is always much easier to be taking some layers off, you know, rather than don't having enough. And as you can see, I have these 2 videos on my channel here, which I recommend you to watch next if you haven't already. So now when you have a better understanding about what the weather is really like here in Iceland during the summer, I think it is time to look at the weather forecast. And in my opinion, there is only one website that you should be really using, and that is the official website of the Icelandic Meteorological Office, weather.is. This website is in English, and you'll find everything there from general forecast overview, weather warnings, volcano information, to more detailed wind, rain and temperature forecast, which you should honestly get familiar with prior to your trip. The only real downside of weather.is is that there isn't really any app for your phone, and so you always have to access it in your web browser, which can be, you know, annoying at times, especially when you have to like zoom in, and it's not perfect, and I hope that they'll figure it out in the future, but for now that's the only way to do it. But still, I think it just makes sense because you have all your weather warnings there, and I think it is probably still the most accurate weather forecast that's accessible to public. But before you click away, I just wanted to say good job, because if you have made it all the way to this point of the video, honestly, you are doing way more homework than 90% people traveling here ever will. And so being prepared and knowing exactly what to expect will definitely move you even closer to making this your real dream trip, and will also separate you from all those tourists who come here totally unprepared and are running around like a headless chicken. And so keep it up, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.